Welcome to another episode of the Saturday Jewellery Rendezvous. This week I'm taking you behind the scenes of Sea Breeze, my collection inspired by Normandy, my home region in northwest France. Going to walk you through the making process of one particular item in the collection, the Margaret 2-in-1 long earrings. It starts with beachcombing and selecting the seashells that are going to make the cut for a new design. I want to keep the natural shape of the shells, not touch them in any way, but actually honor what nature has given me and take that treasure as I found it. So for the Margaret earrings, it's that tiny little shell. I take an imprint in a mold that I create in silicone. That then enables me to make a master in wax. I use that green jeweler's wax that is really ideal to capture all those little details and that texture so beautifully. What you are trying to do is looking at it with the light going through so that you can see which areas that still need thinning down until you get that even layer of wax. Once you've done that, you cast that master in metal. Either you can do it in house or you take it to a caster. I had that first casting done in bronze, first because I wanted to get an idea of the final look in metal, also to see any imperfection that I needed to work on before having an actual mold made that would enable me to get repeats of that shell. Here I'm showing it with another shell that I also casted, and that's part of another design of the same collection. I had to clean those castings really well before having the final molds made, because what you want is your castings to be as clean as possible prior to the final mold. Any default at that stage, and you create a mold with that, you will have that default across all your repeats that you will need to clean up. Here I'm showing you what that final mold is looking like. That was made using that bronze master. It's attached with a sprue. It will allow for the metal to be poured. The technique that's being used is the lost wax casting. I'm showing you a recap of the various stages prior to the final castings of the repeats, starting with the actual shell, the in-house silicone mold that's allowing me to do only wax masters, then the bronze master, and then the final molds. Once you get those castings, there is quite a bit of cleaning to do. Here you see me sewing off manually the sprue, so where the metal was poured into the mold during the casting process. Every single item that's been casted comes with a sprue that needs to be removed. I filmed the process. It's actually ×2 or even ×3 in terms of speed. It shows you how long it takes to actually just do one item of the whole finished piece. Bear in mind that for the Margaret earrings you need 8 of those little shells. Now that we've removed the sprue, we still need to clean up the insides. But prior to that, as every jeweler will tell you, you're not wasting any of the precious metal that you've just removed. I'm keeping all the scraps from those sprue bits, but also all the dust that I've collected from the sewing process, and every last little bit of that scrap and that dust of silver I will recycle in another design, so nothing is wasted. Now there is still a little bit of extra metal that needs to be removed. The only way to get inside that dip is to use my rotary motor with a specific wheel to grind down the extra metal until you get that perfectly smooth finish. Bear in mind that it's actually the back of the earring. I'm working on it to make it look as gorgeous as the front, and that's the beauty of artisan jewelry. We take the time to do things properly and to make it to high standards. We are not cutting corners and we are not compromising on quality. You can look at the back and it will look as stunning. That's the same process that I need to go through for all of the 8 components of those long earrings. What I did after that was playing with the shapes to make sure that I was comfortable with the final design. You want to make sure that your final idea works, because on paper anything works, but in real life you are always surprised. Moving on to the soldering stage. I love soldering, but it can prove really tricky, especially when you're playing with tiny components that you need to solder onto bigger pieces. You have to be patient, heat the shell first, and then the heat will gently transfer onto the jump ring, and eventually the two will get soldered. Sometimes you need to reheat and readjust, reposition. I've just filmed part of the soldering process. I didn't film how I touched these 2 sets of 3 shells together and then onto the top one. But anyway, you have an idea of this process. It's a game of patience and passion, always. After everything's been soldered on, as you can see, you have the top part which is upright, and then the 3 other shells that are facing downwards. And on one of them, I've put my little graphic rose motif. Now you can really enjoy those earrings, have an idea of the scale. I totally forgot to show you how they actually transform, but if you look closely, the top element where the post is has a little hook where the bottom 3 shells and the pearls can be removed from the top component. So you can actually wear them as studs or as really long earrings. I love modular jewelry, transformable jewelry. I think it adds not only an element of versatility, I think it shows also great design, because you need to really think of the way that it's going to work safely, that it makes sense for the wearer to have those options. It gives you more wear for your investment, and it also adds an element of fun because you can change your look at will, styling it as you want, when you want, to fit your lifestyle, your circumstances. Now you have an idea of the birth of one of the items from the Seabreeze collection, how it's a completely handcrafted process, and the beauty of transformable jewelry. I will make other videos of the Seabreeze collection where you will have a proper look at some of those transformable pieces. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. If you want to catch up on the inspiration behind the whole collection, I suggest you go back to the last rendezvous video. Do you have any jewelry that you can transform? Is that something you've ever thought of? Is that something that appeals? I would be very curious to know whether it's something that you would consider or you think it's too fiddly. Let me know in the comments, and remember to subscribe to the channel. Have a fabulous week, and I'll see you next time.